All right, guys, here's my positive video about the Mercedes Sprinter. It's a 2022. I just kind of ripped it apart for its design flaws, but here's what I do love about the van. For a moto van, here's what we did. We just traveled almost 5,400 miles to Utah and back, rode all the way out and all the way back. But what I do love about these vans, this is my third one. I've had the diesels. This is the gas. The riding position, the driving position is excellent, I think. The seats are comfortable. They have their little quirks, which I already pointed out in the previous video. But the seats in general are comfortable. The driving position is comfortable. Out of all the vans that I've tested, Ford's included, I don't like the ride height. This one's jacked up higher. You get a better view. You get a better, it's a nice cabin. The windshield's a bit more vertical. You can see I've got my shades up, but it's more vertical, and therefore you kind of are in a nice little shaded cabin. And I put the heavy tint on it, on the side windows and these other side windows. And then I did tint the windshield as well with the best ceramic sun blocking tint you can get. So yeah, driving position to me is far superior to the most vehicles. I've owned the Toyota Tundras and I love those things. One of the most comfortable vehicles I've ever had was the Toyota Tundra, but it doesn't have the ride height in terms of being up high where you got great visibility. Sheer volume of these vans. I've owned the 170 extended, and then I've owned two 170s. I wouldn't buy anything less than a 170, but the 170 extended was nice. That was a dually. But in terms of moto, let's just go over what I do. We had 4 bikes in here. We had two 300cc betas, and you can see I did the quick and dirty wheel chucks. I buy these wheel chucks used and then throw them on some plywood. And then I just pin the plywood down. If you can see this, I cut a hole in the plywood and slide the D-ring through, and then you can just put a bolt or a pin in there, and that'll hold the plywood from sliding down. So I've done that for a while now. Works pretty good. So cost-wise, I almost have no cost in these wheel chucks because I bought packages of stuff from people. Got the wheel chucks basically for free. These were only 30 bucks for the pair. Here, these were more than free because I made money on the stuff that I bought from the guy. And the plywood I had here, the plywood I just bought at Home Depot, a half sheet. These you can see I just bolted down, and I also D-ring hook them. So moto-wise, we had the two 300s, and then we had the two larger Adventure twins, the African twin set here and my Tenere set there. You have to load them in the same order because the handlebars conflict. We were going to do moto cinches. My friend is a moto cinch nut. He loves moto cinch. It's like his middle name. I call him Mr. Moto Cinch. And we probably could have done it up here with that plywood, but we couldn't do it back here because of the wheel wells. The big girls are just so wide. They're pretty darn tight. But, we strapped them down. We put some safety straps on them, and they went almost 5,400 miles flawlessly. I had one unhook here in I tried not to let my friend drive too much. He's a little rough on the driving, but we went into a gas station ditch. The bike unhooked, which I should have taped these on. I recommend you taping these on or putting a safety on these so they don't come unhooked. And I was afraid of the glass getting blasted by the handlebars, so I had already hung this pad, thank God. So I hung that pad there to protect the glass, and then after he unhooked it once, I put the additional blanket on and I taped those on. They're not taped on now, but I did tape these on so they don't come unhooked. So that was our one little tiny almost accident, but it worked out fine. I just taped them and tightened it. So for a moto van, you've got 4 motorcycles in here, safe and secure, out of the rain, out of, we stayed in the cheaper hotels, so people just don't get to see your stuff. When you put the window shades up, you've got pretty dark situation in here. It's hard to see in, so you don't really show off your stuff at all. As you guys can see in the previous videos, I insulated the heck out of this thing, every little nook and cranny, so it was actually quite quiet. We did experience tremendous winds on this trip. The whole country seems to be windy as hell this time of year, or this year. But we did get a lot of that crosswind assist BS that Mercedes has, but once you get used to it, it's not horrible. But for my previous videos, I don't really agree with it. I just can't turn it off. So moto-wise, we hang all our gear up. You get sweaty. We just hang it all up. I could do a little better hooking system in the future, but like if you've got sweaty armor, shirts, helmets, we just hang it up and it basically dries like this. you know, throughout the trip. Smell wise, we just didn't do any fuel in the van. We don't like fill any bikes, we don't fill any tanks, and we're careful about spillage. And we do all of that outside so that we don't get fumes in here. And actually, we had no fume issues the entire trip. Heat and AC weren't a big deal, even though I didn't have a curtain. Usually I'll pull a curtain across to trap the AC or heat, but we had no issues with that. It was cooler and the heat was fine, and you know, everything worked out really well. So flawless trip. I mean, I bought this pad. I'll probably you probably know where it comes from. It's one of the Mercedes suppliers. It's cut to fit. I'm not a fan of this pad. It was nice for deadening sound and, you know, protecting the floor, but the thing's a pain in the ass to clean. It has this texture that just grabs all the dirt, so it's a pain in the butt. But I'm gonna have to vacuum the crap out of it. The van did get filthy. That's the only thing, is that you do make a mess. We did have some really muddy days, as you can see. And so you do wind up stepping in your own dirt, you know, when you're in here changing and stuff, but it's really not a big deal. I mean, I do love the idea of having a separate trailer where you can make a mess and not worry about it. And it's a lower load point, loading ramp and all that stuff. That is nice. You know, there's going to be, we have studied every which way and traveled all sorts of ways: trailers, trucks, dualies, pickups. I haven't done the camper route. I'm not sure I really want to do that. Hotels are nice in that you just shut the door and leave, and you don't spend 60, 80 or 100 grand on a camper. But in terms of loading it, it was a little challenging. We wound up, you know, the little bikes are easy, but the big ones, we just use the motor to load it, get up the ramp. We actually flawlessly loaded them for the entire 20 times or so that we did it, and we didn't have any issues. You know, it's heavy. We just have one person spotting. The ramp works out pretty good, and we were able to shove them in there and strap them down safely. So in terms of a moto van, I do love it. I already mentioned that I don't care for these doors. I guess there are some fixes or different hinges I can buy. I just learned today from a gentleman who commented on my previous video. But I love the van for that part. I have been using them for moto for a lot of years. I had a 2014 before this that I already noted got wrecked in the hurricane, unfortunately, because that one was perfect. Then I was forced to buy this thing because insurance deals. But anyway, I'm going to recommend it as a moto van. Fuel mileage wise, we basically average 18.4 miles per gallon across the entire country. So that was pretty amazing. There were times when we were getting down in the 16s, and then times when I had a tailwind, we got up to almost 22 miles a gallon. So on average, we right at 18.4, which is pretty good. The last time we went to Moab, we drove a dually diesel GMC, or yeah, and that thing had some turbo issues, so we got like 9 miles a gallon towing a camper and all that junk. So it's a pretty efficient van. I mean, my Tundra was thirstier than this, especially if I had a load in it. It would have been pretty thirsty. But like I said, all your tools and everything are in here, so you're kind of golden and wrapped up tight. Parking's easier. You can pull into most restaurants and still stick it in there. You just back it in and let the ass end hang over the curbs, so you can kind of get it out of the way. But that's my 2 cents. It is a love-hate relationship. I mean, overall, it's a great vehicle. If you need this kind of volume, there's really not much else out there. I'm not a fan of the Fords, just the driving position and kind of the exposure in the cab, and they don't have the volume. None of them have the volume but this thing, to be honest with you. None of them. Everything else works pretty good. The engine is smooth, quiet, reliable. The turbo gas, I do like that over the diesel. It's just kind of headache free. And then the fuel that goes in our motorcycles is the same as the fuel that goes in the van. So if you do happen to run out, you got a can in your van from the bikes that you can just throw a little fuel in. And man, we had some stretches in the middle of Texas in some of those states that were like 150 miles long without a turn or a gas station, it seemed like. So it was pretty desolate in some of those areas. So I felt pretty good about it. Like I said, we did just under 5,400 miles. So great tool for that. And again, holds 4 bikes, no issues. It gets harder when you travel with more than 2, though. We have put 3 in here, 3 guys, and then of course we only had 3 small bikes. And we had a guy on my friend was on a lawn chair because I don't have the other seat anymore like I did with the previous van. Thinking about buying the seat, been trying to buy it, but then you got to drill and all that attachment stuff you got to do. All right, I hope that helps you guys make a decision on what you want to do. They're not cheap. They're hard to find in good shape that are used, and then they're expensive if they're closer to new like I bought. I did not want to buy something this new, but I just could not find anything else. It was slightly used when I got it. It had like 4,200 miles on it, and I really was in love with my previous one because I'd just done all the work on it, invested in it, tires and what do you call it, the water pump BS on the is it the 2.1 diesel? That one was doing great, and it was a real crew cab with the extra seat and the liner in the ceiling already, and it was set up perfect. Unfortunately, she did not make it through Ian. Anyway, hope that helps you guys again. Talk to you later. Appreciate any likes and subscribes. Hit me up if you have any questions about these things.